and thanks for joining us for another episode of Mid-American Gardener. I'm your host, Tanisha Spain, and we've got two of our expert veteran panelists here to answer your questions today and show you some show and tells. But before we jump into that, let's have them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit more about their specialty and what they're into. So Jen, we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Jen Nelson. I'm a horticulturalist, and you can find me online at groundedandgrowing.com. I love to talk about general horticulture, but particularly vegetable gardening and houseplants are my two very favorite topics. But, pretty much anything's fair game with me.
All right, John.
I'm John Bodensteiner. I'm a Vermilion County Master Gardener. I live up near the town of Bismarck, just north of Danville. And my yard has got a little bit of that, I like a large variety. So I can pretty much, if it can grow in this area, I can pretty much talk about it.
Wonderful. Okay, so today we've got a lot of show and tells. This might be the show and tell show, actually, for the month of January. So I'll start out because I rarely bring things to the show, but today I actually do have something. So this weekend, I was grocery shopping at my local store, and if you're a plant person, you know exactly how it goes, right? You're just walking by, minding your own business, and then a plant jumps into your cart. So it was the fragrance of this one that got me just walking by. If you love a fragrant house plant or a plant in general, even for outside, hyacinth is the one for you. So my question to the experts is, after she's finished performing in the house, as you can see, and I'll try not to spill, but I've got 3, possible 4 bulbs in here. So we'll start with you, John, and Jen, you can weigh in as well. Give me some advice, give me some tips. Should I leave this in this container until spring? Do you put these outside? Do you keep them inside? So I'd like to hear what both of you would do if this was your houseplant.
Okay. That's kind of funny because that ties into my show and tell, one of my show and tells today, in that I'm going to be talking about some of the bulb. Now, yours is a spring bulb. The ones I'm talking about are the fall bulb. Yours are hardy once you get them out. But what do you do now until springtime? Once the ground is thawed out, you'll want to get those into the ground as soon as possible. They won't bloom this year, but this summer. But after that, they'll start to bloom.
Okay.
What you want to do now is keep that green on there. Once the flowers have kind of gone and done their thing, clip that stem off so that they don't put energy into producing seeds or think that they're doing that. Keep the green going as long as you can, because they're going to be putting more energy into the bulb as far as possible. So you'll want to do that, and then once they dry off, so to speak, you'll see that they'll turn yellow and go dormant. Basically, stop watering them, put them in a cool place, dark, maybe the refrigerator. Get them out of the ground, and just put them in a Ziploc with a little bit of peat moss, just something so that they don't dry, just moist peat moss, and keep them cool until spring. Get them put out, and then you'll have those. I've had some of those that have lasted 30 years.
So Jen, would you fertilize these in this pot or leave no fertilizer?
You could just fertilize the leaves just a little bit to kind of help the bulbs rejuvenate. In my experience with them, I agree 100% with all of what John's saying to do. I've had kind of a delay. It can be really stressful for the bulbs in the pots like that. So sometimes after I put them out in the garden, in any time from midsummer on, it's fine to get them out in the garden. You have to wait till your soil is workable, of course. And hyacinths, you want to be really careful about not putting them someplace where the soil is really heavy or really waterlogged, because they will be really susceptible to rotting. But sometimes that second year, so like next spring or spring 2022, you may not see flowers, and that it just takes a little time for them to kind of rebuild after having been forced to pot like that. So don't be alarmed if that happens. But I've saved some that have lasted quite a while. Not 30 years.
Okay. So once these are done blooming, you want me to cut the flower stalks off?
Yeah.
Right.
Wonderful. All right, thank you. I will we'll have to update everybody on these, and I definitely do plan on taking them outside. But Okay, so John, you said your show and tell kind of wrapped into this one,
Yes.
so why don't you go
Yes.
ahead?
Yes. Now, those are like spring bulbs. I have what we call fall bulbs, and it's basically the opposite of what you really think. The fall bulbs are the ones you dig up in the fall. The spring bulbs are the ones that you would plant in the spring. So and you plant these in the spring. Those you would plant in the fall. The hardy ones. These are what I would consider tender bulbs. These are Cana bulbs. And I was just out checking mine. I do check them, and that's what I want the listeners to know is to go out and check your bulbs, because you can see these two are really nice. They've got good color. I can squeeze them. They're very firm. But then I've got this little boy, and you can see it's got a little bit of mold. And so this guy here, I want to get it all over my computer. This guy here, I want to pull out of that. And when I do pack them, I make sure that these bulbs are not touching each other, because if this one was right up against this, that mold's going to go right from here to this. But you still want to get it out, because you don't want that mold in that container. And what I pack them in is kind of a moist sphagnum moss or peat moss.
Mhm.
And I put them in the garage in the basement in a cool, dark place. So that's the where. So the where is somewhere cool. The temp you want it cool, and it just cannot freeze. So this guy here, I'm just going to throw in the garbage. Now I have another one, and Tanisha, I gave you some of these, and you said they're doing very well. This
Mhm.
is my Jerusalem artichokes. This is the way I want them to look, nice and clean. But I found a couple that look fuzzy.
Mhm.
So I need to pull those out the same way that I'm, again, they're not touching each other in my packing material, because if they were, this mold would have gone from this one to touch this one, and then this one here is infected. So one of the most important things is in the fall, when you pack these up, is to make sure that they are not touching each other. I use newspapers, just crumpled up newspapers, and then kind of just lay them in so that they're not touching. Use the newspaper kind of as a cushion. Sprinkle a little bit of peat moss, just damp peat moss, not wet peat moss, and not totally dry, because you don't want them to dry out either. If you do just totally dry peat moss, it'll draw the moisture out of this, and you'll end up with shrivel. You want it some moisture, but not a lot of moisture. Let's see, light. You don't want any light on them, and the moisture, again, you want it moist, but if you would take that peat moss and squeeze it and it drips, you've got it way too wet. Some of the others that you would do this with is dahlias, any of the tender bulbs you would treat kind of the same. Gladiolas would be another one. And so separate, get those, go out there and look at them, because now's about midwinter. Now's a good time to go out. If your peat moss is completely dry, you may want to mist it. Now, again, don't make it too wet, because you'll end up with something like this. And this one here, I looked at it at an injury that I didn't catch when I was packing away. So, if you have an injury on them, you may want to put all your injured ones. If you can't throw them away, I have a hard time throwing anything away. Put those in a separate container, and then go through them a month or 2 months later, and then weed out those that you just are no good. So that one goes into the garbage too. So.
Okay, thank you, John. A lot of times we don't think about going and checking on them once they've been packed away until we go out to the spring to put them back in the ground. So not only does that give us something to do as we're waiting, but it's good to check your inventory and see what we've got. So thank you. All right, Jen, you're up. What have you got?
I brought a DIY project that I bought with my 4-year-old daughter, Margaret, in mind, and she's not here today, darn it, to show it, but she might probably get too shy anyway. She is my helper, and she likes to help with all kinds of things. So I wanted to give her something that we could help with, but that wasn't going to involve her tearing apart the kitchen or.
Yeah.
She has a tendency to be very quiet and very industrious. So this is a home, these are oyster mushrooms. We're gonna cook with them later this week, probably throw them in a stir fry. And every day Margaret's job is to spray these. It comes with a little spray bottle. It's it comes as a brick of media that's inoculated with the mushroom spores, and you soak it and then you spray it every day. And this is about 8 days old. I mean, they're in the point where they're doubling in size every day or so. And when we're done with this this side, we can take the brick out of the box and flip it around and cut another hole and do it again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I did this kit from the company several years ago when they first came out, and it did not look this spectacular. And yeah, it's totally feeding my love of growing things, and it's
Yes.
Margaret out of trouble, and so this is all good.
Awesome. So are there different varieties in these kits, or did you specifically purchase that one for a reason?
This particular company, I think this is the only one they make, but it is possible to grow all sorts of mushrooms at home. Some of them take a little bit different conditions, and you can get really fancy and have like specific logs from specific trees. If you have woods, and you can buy little sort of plugs that you drill into the logs, so you can have them growing at 40 if you wanted. There's also a company out there that sells like spores. I think it comes in like a little spray bottle or something, and you grow the mushrooms on a roll of toilet paper. And I think that sounds so disgusting, but I think my kids would love it. So that may be our next project.
I was gonna say, you may have found your next purchase.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think, you know, just watching her or having her watch those the whole time, and then sort of that grow to table experience for kids, I think that is so great that you're able to do that. And people are able to do that with their kids so that they can see what they're eating and what the process is.
Oh, absolutely. And she loves to help me cook. So yeah, having that whole process of watching it grow and just kind of building that love of gardening. I have a vested interest in my kids enjoying growing plants. So it's a
Yeah.
good experience.
I grow the shiitakes on oak logs,
Okay.
depending on the type that you want. Some grow better on certain logs, like the oysters. They can grow on softer woods, but the shiitakes grow best on your hardwoods, especially oak is their number one. And you can bring the logs in. I know I've got one at Schlarman, and we've had a couple of crops of mushrooms there already. And I just pack them you make kind of Lincoln logs. You take your logs and put two this way, and make a little, and then like
They just
Jen
kind of
said,
find their way in the little nooks and crannies in there.
like Jen said, it can take six months to a year on some of those, but like on the oak logs, you'll get, they say, up to 8 years, depending on the size of the log that you can mushrooms.
Well, John, if I build a stack of logs in my kitchen and my husband complains, I'm giving him your number, okay?
Mine are outside. They're by the garage. So I don't have mine inside either.
Okay.
All right, John, we're back around to you with another show and tell.
Okay, I've been ordering seeds, my seeds, and I ordered some lettuce seeds, and it came this year in something I had never seen before. And this is a frozen seed capsule. I don't know if you can.
There we go. Now we can see it.
Got to find out where my camera or my lens is on my phone. But these you keep in the refrigerator. The seeds are on the top part, and then they've got a little bit of cotton, and then there's desiccant on the bottom, and the desiccants will change color as it draws moisture. And once they turn pink, they say that's when you should plant your, consider that they're at the end of their cycle. But these will last up to 5 years. So, and lettuce, lettuce seeds, usually they lose their vigor after about 2 or 3 years, where this, they said I could keep these for up to 5 years. They say they do last better if you put them back in the freezer or just in the refrigerator. They'll keep their vigor, and you can expect almost 100% germination.
When you went to purchase those, were you buying those with the mindset of, I want to be able to keep these for a while? I'm trying to wrap my brain around why you or what's the allure
I,
of
I,
those
I,
versus a packet?
I didn't even know that they were going to come this way.
Gotcha. It was a surprise
you,
to you too then. Okay.
yeah, it was a surprise, but I would think that some of your mail orders are going to start to do this. Yes, I think it's going to cost them a little bit more, and they were just a little bit more expensive, but not that much more than my seed packets that I get from, from anyone else. And the nice thing is all the information is there, like on my seeds. But you can see I got all kinds of.
Oh, you're ready to go.
This was the other seeds, and I think I've got 3 orders in already. And that's another thing with ordering seeds. You get your catalogs. This is just one company. You want to get your orders in early, because I have found, even though I've already got my seeds, there were two packs of seeds that I really wanted that they had already sold out of. So they said that I might get them later.
Jen, did you have something you wanted to weigh in there on the seeds, the life of them?
The seeds in the vial, I would really love to have something like that for seeds that like tomatoes or like cantaloupe, the stuff that you're like, I really don't need 50 seeds of this tomato.
Right.
That's kind of why I was asking on the front. Like I could see you harvesting seeds and buying that vial and buying the desiccant, but shipping them out to you, to me, that's almost like, well, what am I planning for? I guess I don't know.
I think what I'm going to try to do is, I've got some small vials. I've got some dessicant too, and I'm going to try doing this and just store them and see, with the kids. But my kids at school would be a good test for them to see what the germination difference is. From the packet, leave some in the packet, do something like this, and we'll see if it is really what it. I don't know if it's just a promotion but it sounds pretty accurate to me.
I think it'd be more cost effective in the long run. I was telling John before the show, I have not ordered any seed or bought any seed because I've got so many seeds I need to go through my boxes and purge the stuff that's too old. And I feel like that's such a colossal waste of money if I didn't get to grow everything in that packet. That way, in those vials, I might get a little more of my money's worth, even if I had to pay a little bit more for the vial.
And go ahead, John.
This one company, like Seeds and Such, you can find companies that have much smaller. So like some of these only have 10 seeds, and I pay less than $2 or maybe even only $1 per pack on some things. So, if you're going to, like Jen says, I don't need 100 seeds of that particular type of tomato, because I'm not going to be planting 100 Roma tomatoes. I may be planting 2 this year, and then the rest, the other seeds, I'll say for the following year. I may plant 4 of them just to make sure that I get the 2 that I want this year, and keep the best 2 plants. But like Jen says, I've got stacks and stacks of seeds that I've used part of, or some.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. General rule for you guys, and Jen, we'll start with you. How long is too long? I have bought some seeds before from a farmer, and he says, "Oh, my seeds keep for 5 or 6 years." And you get them from the store, and the packet says 1 year shelf life. So, is there a general rule of thumb that can be applied? And if not, how do you guys determine?
It definitely depends on the seed, and there are some charts you can find online that give some general guidelines. But making sure that you're storing seeds correctly is really important. So you want them to be cool and dry. So storing them in your garage is probably not the greatest idea, because it's all kinds of weather out in most garages.
Especially during the summer.
Yeah, I have mine in a box. It's actually a box I found in the office supply section that has dividers in it. Generally speaking, you can figure out, like, if you're questioning some seeds, like count out 10, put them in a damp paper towel in a baggie on top of your fridge, somewhere warm, and then the appropriate amount of time for it to grow, and then see how they're doing. I just tried growing some flower seeds, another project with my kids, and they were 2-year-old seeds, and they should have grown. They grew last year in the garden just fine, and they totally rotted. So but general rule of thumb, like, I'm gonna go through like a mass quantities. I found some lost seeds that were tucked in pieces, you know, that happened to clean off the kitchen counter. You're
Oh,
like,
yes.
those seeds I bought. I'm gonna look through and I would say 5 years out, 5 years on up has got to go away just for
Okay.
me to focus on. I have a lot to go through.
Okay. So,
But
all right.
maybe 2 to 3 years, I give it a shot.
I've had some,
John, what about you?
I've had some tomato seeds that I've actually lost, and then I tried, and they were 10-year-old seeds, and I got some good germination.
Oh,
I have
wow.
some seeds from my dad, and he passed away in '88, and I still get some germination out of those.
Wow.
So, like Jen said, if you have questions and you don't want to wait till spring, now's a good time before you really get into the seed starting time. Take a paper towel, get it damp, not soppy wet. Count 10 seeds, see what your germination rate is in 3-4 days. Check it, and then when you are ready to plant your seeds, if you had a 50%, you plant twice as many seeds as what you thought you were going to need. But I never
Excellent.
throw my seeds away. I always test before I throw.
Yeah.
I sometimes just get overwhelmed with the whole project going through
Jen
it.
sounds like hers are like a lot.
It's a lot better than it used to be. Once I got the boxes and I can kind of sort it and I categorize stuff, I'm a lot better at it. But I used to be very notorious for filling up boxes here and there, or a bag from this store and that store. And
Yeah.
you know, this time of year you go in and your eyes are bigger than your garden every time.
Every time.
That's why planning, I always tell people, if you're going to start a garden, do your planning, put down on paper what you need, and then go to the store and buy your packets there, or order online. And the ones I order online, I can't buy locally. If I can buy them locally, I like to support local vendors. And though these are the ones that I've gone and I looked at what they had. They didn't have this, so I said, if I want that, I've got to order it online or through the catalog. And there's specialty items that only Johnny and maybe 2 other people in Illinois are going to want. Well, they're not going to stock that in these local in garden centers, but they're available.
You got to just look.
You need to go with me to the store and be the responsible adult. Yeah, I've gotten better. I've kind of moderated the behavior, but Tanisha, I feel like if we went to the store, we would need like a.
Oh, it would be bad. It would be real bad. We would need, so bad.
We would talk each other into all sorts of things.
All sorts of trouble. So, yes. Okay, are we back to you, Jen, for show and tell? Yep. I've lost track. We've had such great conversation.
I think so.
Okay, go for it.
So I have been a houseplantaholic as long as I can remember, and it started getting really bad like junior high school, and it continues. And I'm really happy that houseplants are trendy again. And my sister would say that doesn't mean you're cool; you're still a nerd. But,
there's more of us now, though.
This is one way you can kind of satisfy that need for more plants and not break the bank. I found these at a local nursery. They are little tiny houseplant starts, and they had I went there for this one. This is a philodendron called Prince of Orange, and you can see it as the new leaves come out. They're kind of orange in color. I have a really cool blue pot, kind of the color of our shirts, so I figured it would be an Illini plant. But these were all $3. So I can buy a whole tray of them, right? And I got some really neat little ferns. These are perfect size for a terrarium. And so you can enjoy the whole gardening aspect of it, of growing these guys up to a bigger size plant. And I can show you, I've been doing this for a long time. As I said, I bought similar size plants back in grad school 20 plus years ago. I was trying to figure out exactly how old this plant is. It's probably in the neighborhood of 20 to 22 years old. This is my ponytail palm.
Ooh.
That grew from
started in one of those tiny little cups, huh?
Yes. And so you can just enjoy that. And it's a good way to try plants out without spending a lot of money, because some of them, there weren't all that many of like the new hip plants like Monstera or anything like that in really small containers. But I found another one. This is called String of Dolphins. And it's another one of those little hip plants that you keep seeing on Instagram and stuff. But this is a smaller pot. It was only $5. And I don't know if you guys can see it on the camera, but if you look at the profile of the leaves, it kind of looks like a leaping dolphin.
Mhm. So was one of those a strawberry begonia?
Yeah, I did have a strawberry begonia here, and this will be,
Good eye, John.
yes. And it throws out runners, and that's where kind of
yeah.
the strawberry comes.
Mhm.
And it does have a little flower on it, but it'll make a really nice hanging basket, or if you had it up on a shelf and let it spill down.
Those
You
are
can
hard to
feed your
find.
habit for $2.99 at a time. You can't beat that.
Right, more plants is awesome, right?
More plants is always awesome. Well,
That
guys,
was-
thank you. Oh, go ahead, John.
That was one that my godmother way back then when had strawberry begonias all the time. And I always loved that plant. And I still have some just because of old memories. And I saw
The
that. And I said,
sentimental
oh, but
value.
Yep.
Sure.
Awesome. Guys, we just talked for 30 minutes about plants. This is the best day of my life. It went super quick. Thank you guys so much for sharing your time and talents. And thank you for watching us. And we will see you next time. Good night.